Hi Steve, this is Richard from Fiverr, and this video, as mentioned, what I'm going to do is just walk you through your personalized speech. So I've got the one in front of me that you sent across that I'm going to walk through. So a few things just to start off with. This video is a walkthrough. I'm not going to read it verbatim as if I'm performing it. What we'll do is go through each paragraph and then just pause and just explain what you should be doing, what you should be thinking, why you say it in a certain way, to give that more rounded, holistic experience really, rather than just copying what I'm doing. And it's more beneficial. So what I would say is pause this video as you go along, make some notes, revisit it. And I think it will give you more of a flavor because how you deliver this will be slightly different to anybody else. And that will be because of the way you carry yourself, how quickly you speak, your accent. Obviously, I have a British accent. Certain things as well, and your own personal style. And what you'll find as well is the more confident you go through this, the more you will go off page, off script, off speech, because you'll start ad-libbing. Often what you find is you get so into the zone and you feel confident that you start throwing things out there and enjoying yourself. And that really comes across in the speech when you deliver it, which is great. And that's because you've got a good frame of reference from this video and from this crafted speech. And thank you for your feedback. It's really positive and it's great when you leave that on the page so it can help out other people like yourself. So without further ado, we'll get into the speech now. So as I mentioned, I like to give a few openers, and the opener is really crucial because for two reasons. One, it sets your nerves. So you will be a little bit anxious, you will be a little bit nervous, totally natural. But the opener is really crucial to really kind of get your wings, sort of find your feet, get that first joke under your belt. And once people start laughing, you'll feel so much more confident. And the second reason, it kind of sets the tone really on how you want to deliver this speech. So what I generally do, I offer a few of my crafted openers depending on what kind of vibe you want to go for. So the first one is kind of goes down well with the ladies in the audience, in the crowd, in the guests. Very much a case of, well, turn it to a party and somebody's wearing the same dress as you. You're flipping it and saying somebody's wearing the same suit as me. The second one is very much talking about, well, thank you, Mitch, for letting me speak today. And you're flipping it saying, well, it's an honor. I'm going to deliver this amazing speech. And then obviously the joke is that you wrote this in crayon and you had a bottle of wine. So don't expect too much. And that's a really good one to sort of put yourself at ease, because with a best man speech, what you'll find is you're obviously making a few ribs. But if you make fun of yourself to start with, people generally find it a lot easier to take on board. And it starts that kind of persona of who's this guy. It's very much make fun of yourself. So any jokes you make about the groom go down a lot better because, hey, I can take the joke too. And then the third one is if you just want to get into it and just start, it's a nice little one as a bit of a chuckle. You don't pretend to get big laughs on this one, but when you say stand up, speak up, and very quickly shut up, you kind of just get into the meat and bones of it. So what you'll notice on the page is in bold, and generally I've bolded the punchline. That is where you are doing something different. You're going strong in that punchline. And that doesn't mean shouting it. It just very much means that's a kind of cue, depending on what the joke is, that this is changing it slightly, the way your tone is. So how I would do these three, and I'll walk through it. I won't do it every single line, but very much that the open is very important. So hello, ladies and gentlemen. So when you're saying this, you want to be looking around the guests. You don't have to be looking in someone's eyes, because that can be a little bit off-putting for you. And also, if you catch a friend and they start smiling, it might put you off as well. So very much just look above the eye line, so people think you're looking and talking, and people will think, oh, this guy's confident. And again, it will help you. So, hello, ladies and gentlemen. You want to be arms open. Now, I talked in the previous video about mic etiquette. So, as you're talking, you've obviously got to consider that you're going to have your dominant hand holding a microphone. And when you're holding the microphone, as I mentioned in the previous video, don't hold it too close to you, don't hold it too far away. Just hold it a reasonable distance. So you want to be gesturing with your other hand. Now, if you are going to use a piece of paper and refer to the speech, it makes it a little bit more difficult. I would advise cue cards, as I mentioned in the previous video. If not, then fine, use a piece of paper. Try and make sure it's a reasonable quality piece of paper, not just a folded up piece of A4 paper. Just looks a little bit more slick and more professional. So you want to try to gesture very much with your hands. So if you are going to memorize any of this opener is the one I would recommend memorizing out of any other line in the speech, because it sets the tone. And if you can deliver this without any prop or cue card or piece of paper, then it just kind of, you hit the ground running, and it just means a little bit more. So again, I'll go through this. So, hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Steve, the best man. And before I start, I'd just like to say, isn't it embarrassing when you turn up to a party and someone's wearing the same outfit as you? So when you're saying that, you're trying to do a bit of verbal cues there, looking at the groom or looking at a groomsman, and very indicating. Obviously, I'm not stood up, so you wouldn't see me wearing a suit even if I was. But you want to make sure that people can kind of see the visual humour. And that's why gesturing is really important. And that's why it's really important to practice this, because if you've got a piece of paper, it's just going to be flapping. So you want to be really conscious. And out of all the openers, this is one that takes a little bit more practice as well, because it's more of a visual stand-up. The second one, hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Steve, the best man. And I'd like to congratulate Mitch for choosing me to deliver this magnificent speech. And it only took 2 crayons and a bottle of wine to write it. So you probably noticed there, this change of tone and pace. When you're delivering a bit in bold, the lines in bold, you're just changing your tone. You're just making it. So you probably, if you play this back, you'll notice I speed up a little bit on the bold. It just really flavors it more rather than the same tone of voice. So it's that juxtaposition when you see any comedy to really reinforce that line. It just sounds different, and people go, oh, okay, you know, he wrote this whilst he's drunk with using crayon. I get it. And you should get a big laugh for that. And then the third one, as I said, is a bit more simple. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Steve, the best one. And once upon a time, I was told a good speech needs to follow 3 simple rules. And again, this is where you can add to the comedy by using your hands if you can. So you can actually have your hand up demonstrating 3. Look, 3. And it just adds to the joke a little bit more. It just adds, people are more in tune with what you're saying. Oh, 3, he's got 3 fingers, 3. Yeah, what are the 3? And the more engaged. So when you say stand up, speak up, and then very quickly, shut up. And again, that's sort of making fun of yourself, really. And it also sets the scene to say, hey, I'm not going to be speaking here for a long time. Don't you worry. You can go back to what you're doing in 5 minutes' time. So they're the openers. And I've spent probably about 8 minutes or so on those, but they are really important. And what I would say is just practice those yourselves. How you deliver that will be different for you too. There isn't one technique for these things sometimes. It all goes down to, as I mentioned at the start, how you feel and your own style. So if you talk slowly, then talking really quickly, it's not going to really gel with you, and vice versa. So I would say just practice this. And you can practice this in front of somebody and say, hey, how does this sound? Or maybe if I change it like that. If you want to record yourself, even better. I appreciate it's sometimes a little bit off-putting recording yourself, but honestly, it would be worth it, and you'll feel so much better when you come to the day knowing you've done this. So we'll move on. You should automatically get a laugh under your belt and feel better for that. So the next one is kind of like a topper. So you've already got the icebreaker under your belt, and you're just adding this a little bit, and you're setting your scene in the relationship about, hey, I'm the best man, he's my best friend, we're buddies, we will have fun with each other, we will make jokes. That's what guys do. So you're setting the scene there in a light-hearted way. So firstly, I'd like to thank the previous well-wishers and speakers. You'll all know how hard it is for me to stand up here and say nice things about Mitch. So when I'm doing that, I'm using my hand, I'm really stressing, getting that point across. It's really hard standing up here, in front of you guys. It's hard public speaking. That's the impression you want to give. And then using your body language there just to turn and look in Mitch's direction. So when you are talking about somebody, it's nice to look in their direction. You don't have to look in the direction for the whole time, but very much back and forth. It just kind of again, adds that point to your words. Just really reinforces that with an exclamation mark. Hey, he's talking about Mitch. And it really adds to the humour. And not all this is obviously humour. The same applies to the sentimental parts, which I'll come to later. But for those first few jokes, very much a case of just looking at Mitch as you're talking, and then back to the audience. It's very much like, hey, what's the deal with this guy? Kind of humour. And then you're just reinforcing that, saying, the groom asked me to say a few words, and yes, it is pretty nerve-wracking. I only feel somewhat safer knowing that I'm not the only one in the room feeling anxious. Again, pause. Pausing is really important, and where I've done ... that's generally a pause. Sometimes you don't need the ... but to pause, but just giving that indication. So here, I'm feeling anxious, and then turn, and you can look towards Amanda and say, but you chose to marry him, Amanda. So you kind of, again, pull the rug underneath. So I'll do that line again. The groom asked me to say a few words, and yes, it is pretty nerve-wracking. I only feel somewhat safer knowing that I'm not the only one here feeling anxious. But you chose to marry him, Amanda. So again, you'll probably see as I turn to say that. So that's kind of the first part. That's the jokes. And when humour is really difficult to translate sometimes on video, etc., when you're in the room and the vibe is there and people are already in that spirit, maybe they've had a few drinks, always helps, they feel fully fed, they're having a great time, it will come across even better. Because as you're delivering this, you might be like, I don't know, I feel a bit like, are people going to laugh at that? They will on the day, trust me, because everybody wants you to do well. And they're in a really great party mood. And you know yourself, Steve, when you're in a party mood, everything's better. So that was the first part. The second part, we talked more about the sentimental part. And I won't sort of go through each one of these. But when you're sort of being a bit more sentimental, naturally you'll find you talk slower and deeper because it comes from the heart more. So I would like to thank everyone for making this journey to celebrate this wonderful occasion in this beautiful location. And then celebrating the honor, love, commitments, etc. Coming from, there's no joke here, this is true, guys. And when you're saying that, when you're saying the more sentimental parts, I think it's fine a bit more to be looking at your cue cards or looking at your piece of paper, because the words themselves are doing you justice. With the comedy lines, it really reinforces when you're looking at people, because when you're trying to tell a joke and you're just looking downwards, people are like, But if you're looking around, it works a lot more. But when you're doing sentimental, and I think as guys, it's probably even better sometimes if they're looking down, because it's not natural for a guy to be as sentimental maybe, or emotional talking about these things. So it comes across even stronger. So if you want to look down whilst you're doing that, don't worry, that's perfectly fine. Praising the bride, Amanda looks radiant, generally beautiful and stunning. And again, another little joke there. And Mitch, thanks for showing up. So again, just little ribs there, like you've said, oh, beautiful bride. Mitch, I can't think of anything to say, so thank you for showing up. But then the key with a lot of these jokes, really, is just to counter it with something a bit more sweeter, a bit more sentimental. So it's not rib, 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 rib. You're saying something nice. So you're saying, to be fair, the groom has scrubbed up well, looking handsome and dashing too. And then sometimes you can do a topper joke on this, and you don't have to put this in. Sometimes I put this in blue text to say, it depends on your style, but if you want it to be more amusing, then you can just add that topper there and say, and Amanda, it's great to see you in a dress, because with Mitch around, I know you wear the pants at home. And that will generally get a, ooh, and it's that traditional, she's in charge, the lady is the one ruling the roost, and it's that kind of little popping someone's ego a little bit, and it's all good fun, and people probably be like, kind of attitude, but it goes down really well. And then you kind of, again, go into it, make fun of yourself a little bit. Now I have a treasure trove of magical memories with the groom as we steer through life together. What I like to do is use alliteration a lot and use a bit more creative language. It just makes it pop a little bit more, rather than just say very basic words. Takes a little bit of practice, and sometimes you might not feel, actually, that's not something I would say. Perfectly fine. But it's just really wrote in a way just to capture the imagination a little bit. Treasure trove of magical memories, alliteration, and it just sounds nice, rather than I've got a few stories about this guy. So as we steer through life, but I won't embarrass him too much. I'll let his dad dancing do that later on. I put dad dancing. You could say something else about his dancing, but again, it's a good target. Even if he's a really good dancer, but by the time it comes to it, no one's going to say, hey, the best man said he wasn't a good dancer. People will kind of recognize that and say, men sometimes aren't the best dancers. So you go on to the next stage there, and this is where you're talking about some of your memories. And this is the bit I will skim past a little bit more, because what you'll find, Steve, is you at a different part of your brain. A different part of your brain kicks in when you're recalling memories. Up until now, these have been words on the page that I've crafted and you've guided me to. You've given me the ammo and I've shot the gun. With these, it's more the other way around. These are your memories. These are your words. I've shaped them in a particular way and added a bit more humour or structured it grammatically, etc. But these are your memories, and what you find is this is the bit where you might go off page a little bit. This is the bit where you'll suddenly remember, go, oh yeah, do you remember that bit? And it'll be more natural for you because you'll already be in the zone, you'll feel more confident, and this will be the bit that naturally comes more to you because you were there. You remember these memories. So you talk about the first time you met, and what kind of activities you did, you know, typical boy activities, typical man activities, working with your hands and building the go-kart together. And that's a lovely story. That's a good image. And then I've just added the joke there. We have a 50-50 relationship in these things. He builds it, I break it. So it kind of bigs him up as well and saying, hey, he's the guy that makes these things. I just break them. And that makes you seem like a great guy as well, because you're bigging him up now. It's not all just ribs. Then you talk about canoeing down the river and impromptu ski trips. And then just some nice sweet words about, and again, you'll notice the alliteration I've done here. Always adventuring to spectacular spots, seeing the scenery and taking in the stunning sights. Nice alliteration, nice imagery. And then you're saying something nice. I was always glad my best buddy was by my side through it all. And again, people will be like, oh, trust me, you will get ahs on that. And again, that's a nice thing to say, because you've kind of said something really nice with that imagery, and then you've topped it all by saying, but my best bud was with me all the way through it. Then another aspect, you're talking about when you visited him at university, you went backpacking. Love this story, very funny. I can picture it, and I think the imagery really pops off the page here. You can use your body language here of you know, chasing down the train, putting up the tent, ad-lib a little bit here, exaggerate, really getting the image. And then the final sort of bullet point there is picture the scene. And when you say picture the scene, it's just, people automatically start thinking about the scene. Picture the scene of two guys completely miserable, cold, and eating freeze-dried food in a small tent. And like people order, oh God, yeah, that must have been awful. And then you do one which will get a great big laugh. And top it all, Mitch had terrible gas. You can say gas or the equivalent, depends on your style. But yeah, I think that will get a big laugh there. And I think you'll tell that great because you told it to me very well in your words. So I think you'll get a big laugh on that, and that'll go down well. Then you're talking about like your little accident in the cabin with the car. But again, rounding it off, saying what a great guy this is. You know, he really had my back there. He helped me, he saved my life kind of situation. Again, bigging him up. And then a natural phase to the bride. So sometimes in best man speeches, people forget the bride. It's a really important part to mention going forward. It gets you really good points all round is by mentioning the bride. So you do a natural transition there to say, well, going forward, she's going to be the travel companion on journeys and in life. The beautiful bride loves the adventures outdoors, like motorcycling and tours to Mitch's family cabin. And then again, a little bit of a joke, a little bit of like, yeah, we're making fun of your husband here. You get it. And remember, Amanda, as I hand him over, he doesn't come with a receipt. So you can't hand him back. So it seems like you're ad-libbing a little bit there. Sometimes it's nice where people think you're saying things off the top of your head. That goes down even better. So this is a line where you can pretend like, oh, I've just thought that with it. And that's where practice comes in. Because often when people do comedy and you think it's live, it's actually been rehearsed. And they've prepped that impromptu ad-lib. But it comes across more natural. And that's what you could do here. So he doesn't come with a receipt. So you can't hand him back. And if you stumble over words, obviously I'm reading this off a page, so I'm not going to be word perfect. But if you stumble over a page, don't worry. You know, that's fine. It just makes it sound more natural. Then we talk about, oh, well, make a joke there. That's his resume covered off. What about him as a person? How do I describe Mitchell Davis? Do I tell them what an attractive, popular and smart guy he is? Or do I tell them the truth? Simple joke there, goes down well, really well. And obviously you can substitute the attractive, popular, smart to whatever you want. whatever you think is fitting. The key there is not to be too cruel or not to highlight something which is very obvious, but it goes down well. Then we talk about what talents he has and how he's good at everything. It's really annoying. And then a nice bit there about him being a chameleon. I like that wording. And I put there he can multitask and multi-talented at fitting with a group of people or activity. You admire his charisma and his gift with the gab. Or is that having a big mouth? So the punchline, as I mentioned there, where it's in bold, is just changing your body language, looking across as you do this. Either way, people instantly love and welcome him into the group. Then following that through with the reason why, how welcoming he is. And again, when you've been a bit more sentimental, this will come across a lot more natural to you. And you're telling what he likes doing, what's great. He loves cooking, making cocktails and everything else to make sure others are happy. So again, these are your words. These are the things that you've told me. So how you say these will be a lot more natural to you. What I've purely done here is just put it into more of a structure so it flows off the tongue a little bit easier. But how you say these things, as long as you kind of keep to the speech a little bit and don't go too off track, it's fine. And you'll really be in the zone here because you will know you're coming to the end in a moment. And then you kind of pop in the bubble a little bit saying, well, he's not all great. He's not good on time. And again, a few jokes there about actually, it's more of a walking joke because he might actually be on time if you ran. Again, looking across to Mitch as you're saying this. And joking there, bringing the bride into it, saying, you remembered at least it's tradition that the bride is the one that's not going to be on time. And then you rounding up saying, no, he's a great guy because he recognises any faults or flaws you may have. He works his magic to accelerate your skills and your positive traits. And that was really great words that you used there. And then you come into the final stage now, and this is where you go home piece. That's where you're really summing up the happy couple. You're saying what great people these are. You treat them together, happy couple, how they met, love, luck and fate really combined with these two. And your first impressions of Amanda and that you knew she was the one. Saying a few nice words about Amanda. And again, most of these are your words. I've just kind of added a few bits to it, which is great. And then you're summing them up as a couple, saying they're available for friends, ready to travel, meet up or be welcoming hosts. And again, that's a nice thing to kind of end them as a couple. And you can feel every ounce of happiness they do. And your love is infectious. That's clear for all of us today. As I mentioned, as you do the more sentimental parts, you will talk a little bit slower and you will sound a bit more meaningful. That really helps solidify your feelings and your emotions. So for that bit, you'll naturally go a little bit slower because it comes with a bit more purpose. And then just a couple of paragraphs to sum up each individual. To sum up the bride, you have the strength of heart and the strength of character. And that strength radiates in the love of my friend. And that's all I could ask for. Some nice words there just to sum up, saying how great she is and how she's going to be the best person for your best friend. And then summing up Mitch, saying she's a great match for Mitch, brings out the best version of him, and that just makes your heart smile. And Mitch, you've looked out for me, as you're a great guy, a greater friend, and you'll be an even greater husband. Some nice alliteration there, just to round off. And then it's the bit you've probably been waiting for, the traditional advice, the go home part. That's the bit where suddenly you'll realise and go, oh, I'm there. And you may not want to get off the microphone because you're enjoying yourself. I've just put traditional advice there. Obviously, you can tweak that to whatever you want. Some people put a toast, a poem. Some people just say to the bride and groom, whatever you would like there. That's very much your own flavour on that spin. I've just put some words to there which are happy for you to just keep him. Some people put if they've got a new home and they're moving into the new home, or they want to have children, you can add that part there. You didn't mention that in any of your requirements, but maybe if you think about it, that might be something nice to say as well. So once you've done that, once it's over, it's a case of toast. Make sure that your glass is in front of you. You know what it is, so you can easily reach for it. As you reach for the glass, people will know, oh, this is toast time. You might start seeing people filling up their glasses. Just give them a few seconds, picking up your glass, putting it into the toasting position. Now remember, you've got a microphone as well, so you might be using your non-dominant hand to lift up the glass. So it sounds silly, but practice that aspect of it as well. Depends on how good you are with your other hand. It's worth trying. So lifting up the glass, and very much a case of saying to Mitch and Amanda, toast. Drink, people should start drinking, toast. And that's it. Don't worry about that part if you don't get everything in order and you say the toast before you drink, etc. It's fine. Once you've done, look around. People should repeat back to you what you've just said and wishing them well to Mitch and Amanda. Then sit down. If you're handing the microphone to somebody, then check who that is. That's great to know. If not, put it on the table. Try not to clunk it down as well. And just try and do a smooth exit, sit back down, and then you're done. You should get a lot of well wishes and people saying how great that was, and makes you feel like $1 million. And really keen to hear from you on how it goes. So don't be a stranger. As I mentioned, if you can leave feedback on Fiverr, that would be amazing. And good luck, and let me know how you go. Thank you.